Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers, I'm going to be showing you in this video 6 simple steps to fix all your problems. Now, a lot of us are struggling with silly little issues, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And in this video, inshallah, we're going to aim to rectify all of them in 6 simple steps. Now, if you follow these 6 simple steps, you're going to solve all your problems in no time, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, let's talk about step 1. So, step 1 is actually to identify the ideal situation, all right? Now, if you have a problem or if you have some sort of situation, you need to identify what is the ideal outcome here. What is the ideal situation? What are you trying to get to? What is the ideal outcome? Now, I want you guys to paint a picture. What does that look like? For example, let's say I want to make 1 million in revenue this year. That is my ideal outcome, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Tamam. Now, number 2, okay, identify your current situation. So where are you currently? Paint a picture. What does that look like? For example, right now, I make 50k a year. So I understand that the gap now is what? 50k is where I currently am, and I'm trying to get to where? 1 million. Now, number 3, identify what is in the way. Now, what are the problems? Now, what I want you to do is assess this diagram I've drawn right here. Okay? You need to understand, and the reason step 1 was actually to get you to understand where you are, what your ideal situation is, right? And step 2 is where you currently are right now, is because it's simple. If we can bridge that gap between where you are currently, where you are now, and where you want to be, what it's going to take to get there, what problems, what obstacles, what constraints are in the way, then we know exactly where to solve. But a lot of people mess up in this area, and I'm going to talk about why. Okay, so what you need to understand is in between you, okay, where you currently are, and inshallah, where you want to be and where you will be, inshallah, lies a couple of problems and a couple of constraints. If we can solve them, we're going to get to your ideal situation, inshallah, which in this example is that $1 million in a year, or million euros, pounds, whatever the currency is, inshallah. Tamam. Now, so you guys need to understand that there is always one major problem. Well, what does that mean? Every problem, right? And there's so much problems that we all have, right? We have so many problems. But what I'm trying to tell you guys and help you guys understand is all these problems likely come from one big problem, right? So all these problems stem back to one big problem. Tamam. So how do you discover that? What I want you to do is write all the problems. Now, to see which one we're going to attack first, we need to understand which one brings the most stress, the most unhappiness, which one brings the most anxiety. Now, that's the biggest problem. That's the first one that we need to seek to what? Target and tackle. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, step 4, okay? Identify the root cause of the problem. So every problem has a root cause. Now, I like to switch the word, right? Because the word problem has become so, how do I say? The word problem has become so intimidating to so many of us. I just like to switch the word problem. Now, if I use the word problem, if I switch that word with constraint or situation or issue, it becomes much more easier, right? So, identify the root cause of this problem, this constraint, this situation. The root cause will help you and provide you the solution. Now, why am I so big on asking yourself constantly why? Right? Now, this is an exercise that Lambertic, one of my mentors, taught me. 5 whys, right? So every time there's a current situation, ask yourself why 5 times. Now, I'm going to show you guys this being done, okay, so it makes sense. Now, the root cause will provide you the solution a lot of the times, right? So questions require answers. And this is why I get people to always, especially in my mentorships, always ask themselves questions. And it's one of the things we actually teach you during the Mind Control program. Always ask yourself questions, because questions requires answers, and answers require thoughts. Tamam. So it triggers your thinking. Now, this is an example of my client and actually what he done, right? I walked him through this exercise, right? One of the goals he had, I'm not going to mention his goal because it's kind of personal to him. I got permission, of course, from him to share this. So he said a lack of self-belief, right? This was what we end up discovering was his root problem. Now, how did we get there? I told him to list out all of his problems, right? So, for example, I don't question things, okay? He doesn't question things, he just agrees with them. I'm not patient enough. I don't interact enough. I don't run to discomfort. I'm always seeking to stay in areas of comfort, essentially, is what he was trying to say. Dominated by surroundings. He said he's always dominated by surroundings. He can't make his own decisions. And we established, by doing the same exercise, by asking ourselves why. Okay, so why don't you question things? Okay, because you don't want conflict. Why don't you want conflict? Because you're not confident in yourself, right? You're not patient enough. Why? Because you're not confident in the things you're doing. The problem he had here, okay, is I don't implement enough. Now, why don't you implement enough? Because you don't want to fail. Why don't you fail? Because you're not confident, again, in your choices, the things that you're doing. If you guys could see, all of it stems to what? A lack of confidence. Now, the lack of confidence actually isn't the root of the problem. The root of the problem, and what I help them understand is a lack of confidence comes from a what? A lack of self-belief. So what we need to do is help him improve his self-belief. So that's the solution. Better his self-belief. Now, can you guys see? He was facing so many problems in so many different areas because of this one root problem. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to establish to you guys is a lot of your problems are down to one root cause. Now, swiftly moving on. Number 5, once you find the solution, you need to attack the solution, right? So find the path to the goal. Now, what does this mean? I want to establish this for you guys, okay? When I say find the path to the goal, like we said, okay, what lies in between you and achieving this is simply a couple of problems and constraints. So what lies, there's another path now. There's the path in between what? You and the solution. Tamam, you and that key outcome at the end of the solution. So it's like a mini journey, if you will. Okay, so now a lot of the times what's actually stopping us from getting to that stage is knowledge. Mentor, knowledge, which you can find for a mentor, or simply action, right? Acting on the knowledge that you already know. So I noticed from my clients that 90% of the times, we just have a lack of knowledge. Does that make sense? So we have a lack of knowledge of the things that we actually want to achieve, right? So let's say, for example, in this brother's example right here that I mentioned, a lack of self-belief. We understand that a lack of his self-belief actually stems from what? A lack of knowledge on how to get himself to what? Believe in himself, right? Or a lack of knowledge on how to act on the subject. So now, a lot of us, for example, let's say we know how to make $1 million. We don't have the knowledge on how to take the actions to actually make $1 million. Tamam. Now, step 6 is the final step. This is what I call DTR. Deadline. So create a deadline for yourself in the actions. Now, your mentor should help you build out those actions, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The next thing you need to do is track. So make sure you're keeping track of your performance. Does that make sense? How are you addressing this? Keep track of it. It's important. And the final one is review. Now, why is reviewing so important? Because you actually see if it's helping you and you realize that there's going to be another problem, right? When you review it, you realize, okay, there's actually another issue. There's actually another constraint, which leads you to the next thing. Repeat. Repeat this process again. Every time you solve a problem, repeat this. So, ikhwa, if you'd like to learn more about this and learn more about the things that are preventing you from getting to where you want to be, inshallah, these are the things that, alhamdulillah, we cover in the Mind Control Program. Now, there's limited slots. As you guys know, we start very, very soon. Live cohort. So, if you would like to get in, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, fill out the type form below in the description, and we'll see if you're suitable for the program, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.